one of our values. And we're not going to talk about why teams are a good idea. We're just going to talk about how to make your team healthy.
Amen.
Which primarily is just having healthy relationships within your team. Okay?
Amen.
So we're going to talk about, we're going to start talking about the pyramid and then some practical stuff. And hopefully this will be helpful to you. And there's questions along the way. And I want you to actually answer those, so everybody needs to have a pen. Yes, I'm like a school teacher at heart, so I have to do it this way, okay?
Are we graded?
You will be graded. So first we're going to start with 5 core qualities of teams. And I took this, I only brought from the best. I took this from Frank Lencioni's book, 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. Anybody read that?
Great book.
Great book. So he says the first thing a team needs is trust. Trust. Oh yeah, I skipped some introductory questions. Go back. I'm sorry. Oh my gosh, we need to really throw this out. Okay. Go back to we're back. Okay, there we go. Okay, in order for a team to be a real team, each member has to have a part that is essential to the team's function. Question. That's on your sheet. What do you think is the primary goal of your team or the primary function? Why does your team exist? Like your ministry team, your staff team at Muncie or EMU, or what's the purpose of this team? Write that answer down. A great exercise is then to ask the same question to other members of your team and see if you get the same answer. Okay, that's why I'm asking that. And then the second question there is, what do you think makes you an essential part of this team? This could be related to your skills, like things that you can do, or your personality even, or your character. Boy, I'm essential to this team because I'm like the comic relief of the team. Otherwise, this team would be way too serious without me. I provide the fun element of this team. Or this team is, too goofy, and if I wasn't around, nobody would ever get any work done. Because I'm the, kind of workhorse of the team. So, good. Now we can talk about profile. And the first one is trust. Cheese curves. Steve thinks that one of the 5 core qualities of a team is cheese. But that one didn't make it on. Trust. Trust is, notice that this is a pyramid, so the stuff on the bottom is kind of how if you don't have the stuff on the bottom, you can't have the stuff on top of it. Okay? And so the first one is trust. Without trust, the rest of these qualities cannot exist. Trust is the ability to depend on someone else and know that they're going to do what you ask them to do. One of this kind of trust is credibility, the ability that people will keep their commitments. Another type of trust is foundational to this model is the trust that you can feel the liberty to say whatever it is you need to say. You're not going to be personally rejected or belittled or ostracized because there's trust. And so the question is, do you feel like you have this kind of trust on your team? The liberty to speak whatever it is you need to speak. Do you feel like your team has this kind of trust? And if not, why do you think, it's not there? Because you have trust, then you're able to have constructive conflict. Should I have said everybody this side? I did that.
Why don't they move your podium that way just a little bit? Because I think you're blocking it.
Well, I have to be able to reach the things. I don't know the muscle.
I think that's really good.
What I do, just push the button? I haven't been to school yet. It's easy like that. Okay. Constructive conflict is the ability to have open discussion. So in order to have constructive conflict, you have to have trust. It's the unfiltered debate of ideas. Constructive conflict is important because it enables the team to come up with a good solution more quickly. If there isn't trust, people hold back, and then certain critical information and perspectives may not be included. Constructive conflict is also needed to build commitment within a team. Until each team member has a chance to be heard and issues considered, she will not make a deep commitment to the team. So if I feel like I'm not really heard in this team, I'm not really valuable, then I'm not going to make a deep commitment to the team. That makes sense? Mm-hmm. Do you feel like you have this kind of liberty to speak in your team? Do you feel like, yeah, we have pretty unfiltered talk in our teams? Or do you feel like, no, I don't feel like I can speak my mind? This is a little bit of like self-reflection. When you have constructive conflict, that leads to
Stay happy. Sorry. Oh, thank you.
there we go, commitment. Commitment is, I am bought into this team. I am committed to the team. Even when you disagree, I'm committed to the mission, the team, even individual members, because I want to see the vision of the team come to pass. Commitment drives accountability. So are you completely committed to your team? If not, what's lacking that's keeping you from making a full commitment?
I'm sorry, man. I'm trying to help you there. I love technology.
Okay, so accountability is we hold each other accountable for what is supposed to get done. Okay, that's kind of pretty simple. So a team that has no accountability is not a team that gets stuff done. It's not a team that accomplishes the mission. And if a team doesn't have commitment, then I'm not going to hold you accountable. Okay? See how all these things kind of like build on each other. So this is another one of like the 5 dysfunctions of a team, the lack of accountability. So, and that accountability needs to be not just between the team leader to the members, but everybody saying, hey, you said you were going to do this. You need to actually, make it happen. And then the last thing is attention to results. Where there is no accountability, there can be an atmosphere bred where there is an inattention to results. If nobody's going to ask me, if it doesn't matter if I get it done, if there's nobody holding me accountable, then maybe I'm not going to do it. And then that breeds, an atmosphere within the team where we are okay with not accomplishing goals that we set out. Teams that commit to decisions and standards of performance need to hold each other accountable to adhering to those decisions and standards. High standards without accountability is a fairy tale. Failure to hold one another accountable creates an environment where intentional inattention to results can thrive. So what are you guys doing? What systems do you have in place to ensure attention to results? Let's talk about that question. Now, what is the leader's role in the team? I personally think that everybody on the team, for a team, I like the whole Mission Impossible concept of teams. Like I grew up with the original series Mission Impossible, like Barney and Willie, he carried the bags, and Mr. Phelps, he, came up with the plan. How many of you have never seen the original episodes of Mission Impossible? How many of you never knew there was an original series? You only thought there was those movies with Tom Cruise. Oh my gosh, this half your life. Okay, cheesy is all get out, but kind of enjoyable. So, Mr. Phelps would go and he would get his recording. This mission, should you decide to accept it? And then he would go home and he would get out his INF folder and he'd look through it and he'd pick the team members that he was going to take on this mission. Of course, they were always the same people. Really, they could have cut that part of the episode out. But anyway, it was so fun. So every once in a while, he'd throw in like a guest, and he'd say, I need something carried. I think I'll like this Willie. Hey, I need, some tech stuff, party, and it's, Ronnie's always there. And you might need somebody to like make a mask and wear it and turn into somebody else. No matter the height or the ability of this person, they're going to look just like him. And, that guy could do that. And so everybody had a role on the team, and I thought that's what a team is all about. And, I used to always tell, the teams that I've worked with, and especially like our missions teams, how many of you guys put a missions team together? If you wanted to really be a team and not just like we're all going on a missions experience, I'd like to give every member of the team a job. Even if their job seems very small. It still could be a job that if this job doesn't get done, the team is out in its function because your job is critical. And I always tell them my job is to lead. My job is not any more glamorous than your job, it's just the job that I have. That's my role on the team. The team needs leadership. The team also needs somebody to like bring the groundings in. Okay, or on a mission team I had this one guy, Mike Feeney, big football player. And what job do you think I gave him?
Carry bags.
Carry bags. Yes, you were on that team. That's how you remember. And he could carry a lot of bags, couldn't he, Sarah? Man, it was amazing. He had him strapped here, strapped there. He was amazing. He was like a human, well, that's pretty. So he carried a lot of stuff. But you know what? That may sound like a pretty minimal job, but if those bags, if we didn't have a bag, we'd get in trouble as a team. Okay? So there's that function. So a team leader's job is to lead. And they also have a couple of other really important roles in relation to these 5 core qualities. And one is to model behavior. So if we want to have trust, the team leader needs to model trust. If we want to have accountability, the team leader needs to model accountability. It can't be I hold everybody else accountable, but nobody can hold me accountable. I'm above the law. Those kind of teams are dysfunctional. Maybe you've been a part of a team like that. Maybe not in ministry, but maybe like the workforce or like the sports team, where the standards weren't equally applied to everybody, and it's a dysfunctional team. So the first thing is modeling behavior. And then the second thing, which is something that only the team leader can do, is create structures to ensure that these things are happening. So an example of a structure could be saying, hey, let's all go around the table and say what you think about this idea. That's making sure that everybody has a chance to be heard and everybody has a chance to provide constructive conflict. Constructive conflict isn't going to happen. People don't naturally put themselves out there. So as a team leader, you need to create an environment where constructive conflict is okay. And you need to say things like, it's okay to disagree with me. Yes. Yeah.
So then a comment I would make in concert with what you just said there is you kind of have to be careful as a leader, because if you're like, okay, what does everybody think about whatever? And then at the end of it, if you're like, okay, but here's what I think, boom. Sometimes you have to do that. But if you do it every time, then people will quit giving their opinion because they know that you're going to come with a big boom at the end. And so you have to kind of really pick your battle and really ask the question, does it really matter what flavor of bagels we have? You know what I mean?
Or how the room is set up.
Right. If it's a moral issue, if it's an issue that has to do with Jesus moving your meeting, that right. Otherwise, it just kills it pretty fast forever.
So I think those of you who are team leaders can look at the pyramid and say, what am I doing within my staff team to ensure that there's trust? What am I doing to ensure there's constructive conflict? What am I doing to ensure there's conflict? What am I doing to? Not just modeling it, but creating a system that helps it to exist. Does that make sense? And we're going to talk about some of those practical things in just a moment. And there's some questions there that you can answer. What structures are you lacking? Would you feel like there's some structures that you're lacking that is, maybe you said, no, we don't have constructive conflict. Do you feel, okay, well, what structure could you put in place to make that happen? And you don't have to answer all these questions at this moment, but it's kind of like something you can take home and work through again a little bit more. I like to take home stuff, because you can come into something like that and you're like, oh, yeah, what do I do now? So I think it's good, and you can use it just in a staff meeting too, going through these questions. Okay, now the member's role. If you're a team member, what's your role? You can't, you can model some of the behavior, but you can't really create systems. You're kind of like, you don't have the same level of power that the team leader does. But there's some things that are important that you do. And the first one I just call extending credit. Trust has to be earned, right? But you can get some out on credit. You can say, I'm just going to choose to trust this team until you show me that you're not trustworthy anymore. I'm going to choose to put myself out there with my comments. I'm going to choose, I'm just going to choose to do these things. Okay? And then as a team leader, you can say, do I feel like my members are doing that for me? Are they giving me the benefit of the doubt? Are they extending credit to me? Or do they have more of a, well, I'm here, and when I see that I can trust you, then I will start trusting you. And I think in a Jesus environment that we work in, this is perfectly the right thing to do. It's just to extend credit to our team leader during the growing stage of, like we just have a brand new team in our office, and, they know us a little bit and not so much, and we just needed to kind of like give us the benefit of the doubt for a little while. And we just say that explicitly to them so that they understand this is a season we're all in. You know what I'm saying?
Give an example.
I will later on when we're go back to stuff. Okay? And then the second thing that I think is really important for members to do is to give a lot of feedback. The reality is, those of us who are team leaders, I'm kind of like in a neat situation. I think this is maybe why Steve asked me to do this teaching today, is because I lead our staff team. Steve's on the road a lot, so I do most of like the day-to-day management with our people. And then throughout the years, I've led different teams in our ministry. And then I also kind of have a boss still. So I'm like both a team leader and a team member. Okay? And, I think the team leader needs a lot of feedback. They may think, it may look like they have it all together and really know what they're doing, but most of them are just going to do a lot of guesses and really hope they guess it right. So, the team members, you need to give your team leader a lot of feedback. Like, wow, this is a great system. This really helps me. Or, I'm not feeling heard. Or it's hard for me to share in this context. Or it would be easier if things were done this way. Just a lot of feedback, not just about how things are done, but even about you. Because when you're like brand new on a team, people don't know who you are. And it's important to take a moment and say, this is who I am, so that you understand how I behave, and you're not misinterpreting my signals. Okay? So even feedback on our own person and our own personality is really important. We'll talk more about that in the whole practical thing. So, as a team leader, do you feel like you're getting adequate feedback from your members? Do you feel like you have enough feedback to be able to say, okay, this is how we need to move a group as a team? Or you feel like, well, I'm operating, like the pilot was, it's stormy, it's dark, and the instruments aren't working so great anymore, and I'm kind of flying blind here. There's enough challenges in ministry without feeling like your team is also a question mark. Okay? That needs to be kind of like the solid part of your ministry, is your team relationships. And it really can be. I know sometimes people have had bad ministry experiences, but I think if you do a lot of good things, you can have a great team. You can really have a healthy team and a really strong, powerful, keep the devil's butt kind of team. Let's talk about what we could they call in like this whole, I think it's Frank Lencioni, your level 1 team and your level 2 team. Let's say you're a staff member, and you're on your staff team, and then maybe you also lead a team. Maybe you lead the international ministry team, or you lead the worship team, or you lead another ministry team. So you have 2 teams. In one team you're a member, and another team you're a leader. And where you're the member, that's called your level 1 team, and where you're a leader, that's called your level 2 team. Sometimes those teams have conflicts. And traditional wisdom says your level 1 team needs to win out. Why do you think that is? Why do you think they would say your level 1 team needs to win out when there is like a loyalty issue or like a scheduling issue or some other kind of issue?
Say that again.
So if let's say that the main ministry, the staff team is saying we need to go this way, but the worship team feels we need to go that way.
Because you can't have 2 heads.
Yes. Right. The level 1 team is providing more broad direction for the organization and ministry, whatever's happening. And though people can get really tight with the team they're leading, your staff person can be like, these are my peeps, you know what I mean? And they can feel kind of like a little bit of a protective spirit over their team to this team, but it needs to be the other way around. And that means you need to, as a team leader, if that's your job, work at building that loyalty within this team, okay, and that relationship there. Because if it happens the other way, it is very disruptive to the organization, the ministry, etc. Okay. I read that and I thought that's a good point. Okay, now let's talk practical stuff. Practical stuff is the best stuff, because that tells you what you can actually do. It's not theoretical, right? Theoretical is important, but practical is better. So I came up with these. I made these up myself. It's cool that they all start with a C. 3 things you need: clarity, commitment, and communication. If you have the 3 C's, you will see clearly. You'll be doing great. Okay. We're going to just keep moving, grooving, and where there's questions, feel free to answer them even if I don't ask them. Okay?
Where do you put those 3 on this sheet?
Number 1, it says the first thing is clarity.
Oh.
Sorry, I'm probably not doing justice to this wonderful sheet that Chris prepared. Can you give her a hand? So, clarity. Clarity is the most wonderful thing. Confusion is bad. Confusion is a bad seed. We don't like confusion. Confusion breeds problems. All of these practical things are ways to avoid problems. How many of you have worked on some kind of a team, a staff, a job, a secular job, and you have had confusion? Was it fun? No. So avoid confusion at all costs. And one of the ways to do that is to have clarity. And here's some areas that you need to have clarity in. Number 1 is expectations. What does everyone expect of everyone else? What do you expect of me as your team leader? What does Steve expect of me as his team member? What do my MAs expect of me as their leader? Etc., etc., etc. What does everyone expect of everybody else? You have to answer these questions. Yes.
What kind of suggestions can you give to people who don't think of those things until the conflict arises? Oh, I think I have an expectation there.
Okay, so my suggestion is have a written job description for your staff people. That's my first suggestion with this, with expectations. You need to have written job descriptions. One of the conflicts that arise in staff teams is somebody's doing my job. Okay? Oh, I thought that was my job. Why are you doing my job? We're Christians and we don't like to get territorial, but we do. And so if I know this is my job, everybody likes to know what their domain actually is, right?
Yeah.
I think this is my domain, I can function in this domain. Nobody likes anybody stepping into their domain. So answer all the questions that you can. And I have a whole bunch of resources I put on the web for you that you can use, so don't worry. Yes.
Would you bring this down to the level of the student officers too?
Yes.
Okay.
I always had, we had job descriptions for our student leaders as well, and written expectations. You know, things in writing are just wonderful. It's just wonderful to have something in writing. You know, it's just, everybody can see it, everybody knows it, it's clear. When you say it, it's not always clear. Okay? So I majorly believe in written job descriptions. Also taking to the right time to write or enumerate expectations on projects or tasks. You're in a staff meeting, you say, okay, Katie, I need you to be in charge of the barbecue. I want you to get some hamburgers, some hot dogs, blah, 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 blah. There's a lot of openness for miscommunication there. So, you know, either you say, you take a piece of paper and write down. I usually will have my staff members say, you know, like, for example, I need you to do the shopping for this, you know, breakfast this morning. I want you to put together a shopping list, put together a budget, how much is it going to cost, give it back to me, I'm going to look at it. Okay, that looks good. No, you forgot this thing, no, you forgot that. You know, you have to, and especially when someone's young. You know, after Kim had worked for us 2 years, I didn't like her work. I gave her an assignment and she did it. But, you know, when your staff is young, you have to give them more oversight. And I tell them, you're young, I'm going to give you a lot of oversight. You may not like that, But until I know that I can trust you, this is what I need to do. When you can show me that you do your work and it's good, then I'll give you more liberty. Okay? And I'm just really explicit about saying that. And then there's no like, oh, she thinks I'm an idiot. She doesn't trust me to do anything. I just tell them, you're young, you're new here. I don't know how you work, so I just need to do it this way. And it may be a little frustrating for you right now, but we'll all just enjoy that season and we'll get through it. Okay? Yes.
I think it's important what you just said there, though, is you're giving responsibility, not giving task. Because when you give a task, you're basically saying, we want to see if we can trust you. But if you give a responsibility, you're saying, we do trust you. Now, you follow up with it, making sure that they do it the way you think, making sure they're not missing, that's huge. But when you give a responsibility to someone, that's saying, okay, we're trusting you with that piece, there's a mutual trust that's going on.
And I think, management is not like our strong for either Steve or I. So we have to have systems in place to help us. So we use something called Action Method Online, where we can give somebody an action step and you delegate it, has a due date, and then I can go back and look at it and see if it's been done, and it says your action method's been completed. And so we have to use that system because otherwise, to be honest with you, once I ask you to do that, I forget about it. And then the only time I remember about it again is when it didn't get done. And then it's too late then. Yeah.
Obviously, Belkis, I mean this in all honesty, is the brains of the outfit, and she's the systems thinker and all that kind of stuff. He does a great job of it. If I could add this, I cannot overemphasize, I guess we couldn't overemphasize enough, that if you give an area of responsibility and give the authority to do it, you cannot bail the person out. I learned this watching Mike Olajar's when I first got into Chi Alpha, and he said, come and spend 3 days with me in Athens, Ohio. And he let me know that he had given worship for their main meeting over to this person. I don't know who it was, but it was some student leader. And they showed up, and they were unprepared. This is back in the days of overhead transparency. They didn't have the overheads and whatever. And so I said, so what did you do? He said, we didn't have worship that night. And he said, and we never had to do that again. Whereas normally the Chi Alpha guy grabs his guitar and makes it happen. But every time you do that, you're just digging a deeper hole for yourself. So you need to let people publicly fail and then sit down, okay, what happened? We never can have this happen again. What was wrong? You know what I mean?
So we have a lot of material, so we're going to try to keep, moving. So the next thing is boundaries. No, you're good. You're good. I just want to look at the time. Maybe I planned too much. I have a gift of thoroughness. It's a gift. Boundaries. What's okay? What's not okay? Where are the fences?
Right.
Okay? Everybody, my dog enjoyed his life in the fence. He never got hurt. He ran around, killed those squirrels, his life was good. But if he didn't know where the fences were, he could have gotten out and got hurt. Or you crossed the line. Well, I didn't know the line was there. So where are the fences? Where are the lines? This is one question that every team needs to know the answer to. What can get you fired from this team? You need to know the answer to that question, and your staff needs to know the answer to that question. Do you know the answer to that question right now? I can guarantee that my staff members know the answer to that question. Kristen, what can get you fired from our team? So we went over it. I don't know if I have to go over it again.
Not knowing
Give her a chance. Lying. There's two things that we do not abide in our team. And it doesn't have to be your two things. But it's our thing, you know what I mean? And so we just let them know this is our thing. We don't abide this. One is a breaking of confidence. If something is shared in confidence and you break that confidence, that can get you fired. Doesn't mean it will necessarily get you fired. If you did it in ignorance or something, stuff. But that's not acceptable. And secondly is just disloyalty. If you have a problem with me, come talk to me about it. If you talk to anybody else about it, yeah. Okay, policies. How are things done around here? How can I go buy $100 item, and is that okay? Can I spend $20? How about $5? How about $1? Okay? Policies when it comes to money management. Okay? How many take up student offerings? Who counts the student offering? How is it counted? How is that handled? Those kind of questions. Mistakes happen, things, go on. We had a staff member, God bless him, he's with the Lord now, and he had a key to the Lutheran chapel, and so he went, and it was a hot day. It was a hot day, and he decided that he was hot, and he was on air conditioning in his apartment. We thought he'd go to the chapel, which we rented at the time, and turn on the AC and take his shirt off and pull off. Well, unfortunately, that was the moment that the Lutherans decided to give a tour of the facility to some of the donors.
You don't remember that happened?
No.
There
So
he is.
then, they walked in and there he was, and unfortunately, he didn't have pants on. But, they were kind of surprised. And, here we were like, why would you do that? And we were like, well, we had never said, don't ever do that. So, we're giving you this key to this building, this is how this key should be used.
Right.
And so we started, probably everybody after that thought we were like the most controlling, freakish people. Because you have this key to this, center. You can use it for this purpose, this purpose, this purpose, and no other purpose. Well, there's a reason, we came up with that. You learn all these the hard way, right? Yes.
It seems like that's getting, you can't explicitly go through everything. You can't tell that guy, hey, you can use this for all these intended purposes, but just don't take your shirt off.
Right, I think
So
it
how
was...
do you get around that, especially with student leadership, where it's I can't go through all the things that you shouldn't do.
I think you just talk about what you can do. You can't say, yes, you cannot come up with every possible thing that they might come up with. Please don't wrestle in the Lutheran chapel and push somebody through one of the doors, glass doors. We've had that happen too. Okay, well,
the glass.
Andy, the deal is that when we said, why did you do this? He said, well, I had the key. And we don't own that chapel. We rented it. He says, well, I had the key. So he assumed if I had the key, then I guess I can do anything I want. He wasn't being mean. So you can say, this key does not allow you to do anything you want. It entitles you to do these things.
I think it's a matter of just showing what's the policy, where are the boundaries. You have this key, you can use this key for when we have a meeting, when you use it at the building. You go through the things that the key's actually there for. Don't use it. If you want to use it for anything else, please come and talk to us. We own the truck. I like what Skip said yesterday. Yes, this is my truck. No, I will not move it. Okay, well, the ministry owns the truck, and you get a lot of requests for moving, right? So we had to have a policy after a while. Now some of these come up because you didn't think about it, but I'm trying to help you think about it in advance, okay? So just think about what we do, and does everybody have clarity about what the purpose of this resource that the ministry owns, whether it's a truck, whether it's a building, whether it's, a copy machine, can I copy my term paper on this? So we had things like that. We said, you can do that, it's 10 cents a page. Well, you can do it for free at the university, so that just kind of eliminated that problem. Personalities, I kind of already talked about this, but clarity about who I am. There's a lot of personality tests out there. There's a lot of those gift inventory tests. They're helpful within their context. Don't take them into the Bible and pigeonhole people and label them. Oh, well, God, you're acting that way because you're an honor. That obviously nobody wants to be labeled. But it is helpful to know who everybody is. I've been a shy person pretty much all my life. That may be hard for you to believe. I have skills, that help me to function. But I'm naturally a shy person. And when you're a naturally shy person, everybody labels you as being snobby.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Right?
That's true.
So, because people don't know she's shy, they just say, oh, she's snobby. So if, if I'm in the zone, I'm all over the board ADD, but sometimes I'm in the zone, and if you walk in, I don't see you. Okay? And it's okay for you to walk in and ask me questions. It doesn't really bother me. So I tell you, it doesn't bother me to do that, but I may not notice you walked in, and I may not even notice you talking to me. Okay, so I'm not ignoring you.
I'm not snobby, you're just confused.
I just don't know. My daughter's like, Mom, there's actually, I tell you because people sometimes stand right next to you and you don't notice them. And it's true. I can be in the market and I'm shopping and I'm getting my bread and somebody I know is standing right here and I don't know. because I'm like tunnel vision, you know.
Yeah.
And that people, I think that I do that, she'll probably think, oh, she's pretending she doesn't see me. I'm not pretending, okay, I don't see you. So it's like, oh, really? The whole time I didn't see you, you know? And so just understanding that about me, now maybe you'll be like, oh, she didn't just walk by me and pretend to ignore me, she's just clueless.
Right.
Okay? And I think we have to know that stuff about each other's personalities because otherwise we can misinterpret the signals. Okay? And that's just another place to play. Okay, moving on. Oh, I didn't put these up. Sorry. Okay, commitment. We gotta be committed. And if not, we'll be committed. Okay. So number one, we have to be committed to a common vision. If you're not committed to a common vision, you don't have a team. If somebody is on your team and they're not committed to your vision, that's a member of your team that needs to leave. Does that sound mean? It's just a reality. I mean, if you're not all going the same direction, what are you doing together? It's like, how can you get married to somebody who wants to do something else with their lives? I want to live in Brussels. I want to live in Egypt. Let's get married. You know, I don't think it's going to work out. You know what I'm saying? So, though people have done that for some bizarre reason, it's not going to work out. So, in order to know if everyone's committed to a common vision, you have to know what? Yes. So that's like the most important question a team needs to answer. That's always the first question I ask you. What's the reason this team exists? Amen. Sit down at your next staff meeting, ask everybody to get out a secret ballot and ask them that question. What's the reason this team exists? And see if you get the same answer from everybody. Hopefully you will. And one of the things, we'll talk about in the next C, which is communication, is you cannot over-communicate your vision. To your students, to your support team, and even to your staff. You need to be sharing your vision all the time. If vision is fluid, and sometimes you fulfill your vision. Like our vision is to get on campus and get a group study. Well, you did that. Now what? What's our new vision? Well, when you're at that point of vision making, I think the team needs to be involved in that. It's not like, okay, I'm going to go over to the mountain and I'll come back and tell you what we're going to do next. I don't like that philosophy of team work because for one thing is, I'm always looking that every team member might be a leader one day. And I'm not equipping them to become that person if I'm not letting them participate in what a team leader does to a certain extent. So, we invite our team into a lot of things, and I think a lot of people don't invite their team in, but that's a lot why we have a lot of people who have been raised up to be leaders. It's also why we can't hold on to any staff because they're leaders, but hey, that's another story. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, to each other. This is just simple biblical Christian relationship. I'm committed to you as a person. Okay? And so what does this mean? This means that you need to get together. Not for staff meetings. You need to get together for fun times. I'm thinking about once a month is a pretty good standard for getting together with your team and having a good time. We call it field fellowship in our system. You can give it any name you want. Okay? You can call it fun days. I think you guys call it staff fun days or something like that. So you can give it any name you want, but we just have a good time. We have a cookout. We gave the responsibility to somebody to find fun things for us to do at our next field fellowship. So I don't know if we've ever made a decision on what we're doing, but we're looking into it. We might go canoeing. I think we're going to do the picnic thing. No, two, have a yearly or bi-yearly staff gathering that is part fun but also part vision. So that you're rekindling that vision and recommunicating that vision. And then regular prayer times together. I'm a big believer your staff needs to pray together really as often as possible. I don't think it can be too often. We pray together every day. And I'll tell you, the Holy Spirit takes care of a lot of things if you're in prayer regularly. Relationship and prayer, that the Holy Spirit will really help you out with those kind of things. Okay, third one. They really do. They need you to be committed. They need your commitment in the following areas. Number one, dependability. They need you to do what you said you will do.
What'd you say? I'm sorry.
Dependability. You need to be dependable. You need to get the stuff that's asked of you accomplished. You need to be committed and be dependable. Okay? That sounds pretty simple. Secondly is loyalty. You need to have the back. The devil loves to bring division. It's like strategy number 2 on his 3 most powerful strategies I use, It's like one of his go-to. It works for him all the time, so why would he come up with something new? Okay? So, and he loves to tell, it's like the Absalom syndrome. Well, if I was king, I would do it differently. I don't know the king's going to listen to you. So it's very tempting when you're the staff person to think, I'm just as smart as a leader. I can do as good a job as they do. I told some of my interns back at EMU, when you start having that thought of, I think I can do things better than this person, or I would do a better job if I had this job, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It could be that God is preparing you to be a primary leader. So that's not necessarily rebellious and ugly. Now, if you take it to rebellious, ugly places, then it will become that. But it can just be, well, God is birthing a leader's viewpoint in me, and it's probably time to move on. Or it's going to be time for me to move on soon. Okay? I think sometimes that happens, but people don't take a courageous step, and so they stay in a safe place, and then it ends up being bad. That's when it goes ugly. Does that make sense? So that feeling is not necessarily bad. It's just when you don't go with that feeling and say, okay, it's time for me to launch out. I think that's when you get all those ugly church relationship stories taking place. And then the third thing is just submission. This is a scary word that nobody likes, but basically it just means living under authority, living under covering. It includes loyalty, dependability, trust, being teachable, not being defensive, saying, hey, I trust. Really, submission is all about trust. I trust you. Now, obviously, as a leader, I need to build that trust, but I need you to just give me some trust back, too. Okay, now let's talk about, and I'm going to try to move on, and maybe we can do some Q&A or just chatting, because, okay. Running out of time, just moving fast. Okay, the directive to the staff. Here are some commitments you need to give your staff members. Number 1, before I go to the number 1 and 2 thing. This person is like, I'm big on the concept of entrustments. God trusts us with things, right? He puts something in our hand and he says, I trust you with this. Use it wisely. Okay? And when you're a team leader or a director, your staff is like that. It's something that God has put in your hand and said, I'm trusting you with this resource. I'm trusting you with this individual. I'm gonna ask you to give me an account of how you use this resource. And I want you to use it wisely. Okay? That's kind of my perspective of the people who come to work with us. So I let them know right up front, I am totally committed to you and your development. You're not going to be working here for the rest of your life. And when you go to the next place, I want you to be as prepared as you can be for being here. So it's this kind of dynamic between this is the time of preparation that God is using in your life, and this is the time where you're helping us accomplish your vision. Okay? They're not a slave that they work for me. This person belongs to the Lord. So I need to treat them as kindly and with the same vision and the same investment perspective that I treat any of my students. Okay? Now, I don't have students anymore, but So, how can you practically do this? Number 1, you need to meet with each of your staff members every week. They need to know that this is their time that they have with you, that you're investing in them. Now, you can use this time to talk about work stuff, but primarily it needs to be a time to just mentor them and disciple them. Okay? And that you can also ask for feedback. Remember we said that feedback thing is so important? Here's when you just say, hey, I need your feedback. And it's a safe place for feedback. If I think it's a little weird for them to say, I think you're like the worst director ever in a staff meeting. But maybe they can share that in a one-on-one setting that's a little bit more appropriate. Okay, number 2, don't pigeonhole your staff, especially when they're young. I mean, if you have people in their 20s, they're just starting in ministry, don't give them a personality test. Say, you're the enthusiast one, and so we're going to have you all the enthusiast test. And then that's all they ever do. Because, we don't know who they are yet. God is developing them. And they may be, they may do something that they may end up saying, wow, I really enjoy this and I never thought I would. So I think in the early years of somebody's life, you should change your portfolio often. Even if they're doing a great job at the portfolio they have. Give them, next year let them do some other new things too. And they may stink at them. Or they may actually discover, I like this more and I enjoy this more and I'm better at this than what I was doing before. And that's part of us helping to develop them as people and as leaders and as ministers. So I'm kind of big on this one. Number 3, express your commitment verbally, clearly, and often. I had one of my staff recently, we were going through the Purple Book together and the D-Book. I'm going with, Tiffany and Kristen, one of them, was doing it, and the Lord, spoke some joy. She texted me, she said, I didn't want to bother you on the weekend, but, and stuff. And I just, wrote back, you would never bother to me, you can call me anytime you want. Mm-hmm. Okay? So just letting them know, you are important to me. You're not somebody, you're not a tool in my hand, you are important, you have value. Okay? The other side of submission is protection. You need to have your staff's back. Now, I personally operate under this philosophy. I try to give our staff as much credit as possible. Like, hey, Jeremy did this, Kristen did that, Nicole did that, Kim did that. Put them on. If they make a mistake and they mess something up, I feel like it's my job to take the hit and not throw them under the bus. Because the buck stops with me. Or, I say to you, hey, you may think that secret's all the credit, but trust me, he'll take all the blame too. If something goes wrong, no one's going to be coming and saying, oh, I can't believe you already did this. It's going to be just him, that's going to take the hit. So, give them the praise and take the hit. I feel like that's kind of part of your job. If you're the team leader, that's kind of like, that's just your role. Okay? Number 5. Linda does this, and I think it's a great idea. She has monthly accountability reports, and I'm going to put this on the website for you. That is a method of tracking your staff's spiritual health. Are you praying? Are you looking at something you should be looking at? Just asking those really, kind of pointing questions. So that's another way to show your commitment to your team members. Okay, and then lastly, we all need to have a commitment to grace. Everyone is going to fail. Everyone is going to make mistakes. It's just, if something goes wrong, people are important and stuff is not all that important. Okay? So let's just be gracious with each other. I think that's a big thing. Okay, last bit. Oh, we have time. We're doing so well now. Okay, communication. You cannot over-communicate. Yes?
What are the fill-ins for number 5?
I don't know what to say.
You can maintain your blank as a team. You can maintain one.
Say it again.
You can maintain your blank as a team.
Under grace.
Under grace.
You can maintain God's blessing on your life, or you can maintain your effectiveness as a team. Sorry. I should have one of these up here so I know that there's fill-ins. You can maintain your effectiveness as a team if you're gracious. If you're not gracious, you will lose your effectiveness. Because you lose your relationships. If you lose your relationships, you will lose your effectiveness. And God won't like you anymore. If you're ugly, the blessing of God leaves. God likes, it's like the kingdom of God is like, the values of the kingdom is grace and kindness and forgiveness. God's not blessing things where those things are, well, we're preaching the gospel, but we're not acting like it. Bless it, Lord. It's like, yeah, right. He's like, I'll get back to you later on that one. Okay? So, and I think that's just the grace of God. Really, if He blessed us all our bad behavior, we won't behave badly, right? So, He's just, reminds us, just like we do with children, that you can't act that way. Okay, last thing, communication.
Belkis?
Yes.
There's two more.
There's two
The
more.
second one says you can maintain blank on your life and on your team. I'm just got blessing.
Blessing, yes.
And the last one is don't miss the opportunity to
To be an example of healthy relationships and healthy teams to your students. We almost missed that opportunity, Andy. Thank you. And I like your new haircut, by the way. It's quite 1950s.
No, it's awesome.
Don't miss the opportunity to be an example of healthy relationships and healthy teams to your students. Most of our world does not have healthy relationships, right? And so one of the greatest things that we can provide for our students is an example of what a healthy relationship is. These people actually love each other and are committed to each other and don't backtalk each other and don't act the way that everybody else that I know acts. That's hugely powerful. Okay. Sorry about that, you guys. Okay, last one. Communication. We already talked about weekly one-on-ones. Some people do weekly schedules. They make their staff submit weekly schedules. You can do that if you want. I don't make my staff do that because I wouldn't actually look at them and I figure it's like a waste of time if I'm not going to look at them. I do have these things called work reports, which is on the back end. I want to know how you spent your week, what you did. And it's tailored to the job description. So, the job description says put out this newsletter once a month. On your weekly work report it says I put out this newsletter or I'm putting it out on this date or, whatever it might be. So everybody's work report is unique to what they do. Communicate any which way you can. Some people like emails, some people like phones, calls, some people hate phone calls. If people don't answer their phone and that bothers you, tell them you need to answer the phone. Okay? If you don't care, then just. But I think you need to talk about what's good communication for you. Like, how many of you would rather get an email than anything else? See, I like emails. It's like a real trail. I don't throw it away. I don't file it. I know I got to do something with it. You know what I mean? How many of you like text? Please text me. Text is wonderful. I'm growing in the texting world. I'm getting there a little bit. Yeah. I often have people text from my phone, like my staff text from my phone, and then it's kind of funny because things get back and they don't know it's somebody else texting. What about, man, please call me and I want to talk to the life with me. That's, nobody wants, John Mark, yes. So, you need to let people know that please don't send me text, don't send me email, call me on the phone and ask me a question. That's pretty, so, you need to have clarity about how to communicate, isn't that funny? Because otherwise you can miss each other. Number 2, you need to talk regularly about your work. Now I'm going to show you another thing. This is another Patrick Lencioni, concept. I like Patrick Lencioni. I think he's kind of awesome. I'm hoping he'll become like my best friend and come over and play and stuff. Tell me cool stuff. This is from his book, Death by Meeting. Anybody read that one? It's got some good stuff in it, and we kind of use it in a modified form. I would recommend it. You can I put in the links that I'm going to show you where you can find them. I put a summary of this on there, and then I also put a link that on his page, on his organization. You can, for $35, take an assessment of your team on the whole 5 dysfunctions of a team. And so you can assess your team and find out if you have any dysfunctions and if so, where they're at, all that. But he has this model of kind of maintaining communication in your team. And he calls the first one the daily check-in. And that's just a 5 to 10 minute, don't sit down, don't cancel, nobody shows up, keep it administrative, what you doing today. I'll often do that. We pray every morning at 9. We pray for you guys, pray for your meetings. We pull one person out of those. How many get those cards? We pray for you today, cards. We pull one card out, we pray for somebody. And then I'll often say, what are you working on today? What you got going on today? And just kind of a little check-in. It helps me because maybe I was maybe thinking about asking them to do something, but then I kind of see, oh yeah, they got that going on, that's a big project, maybe I'll do that tomorrow. It also is kind of a little accountability thing. You're actually working on something today, which is good. But it just kind of, and it also kind of keeps momentum going. Yay, like forward's coming up. we've been working on forward the last 2 weeks, pretty much that's kind of like consumed our lives the last couple of weeks for us, our team. And so it's like, what are you working on today? Oh, I'm gonna like get the full PowerPoints done today, or I'm gonna get the full this done. They just don't even know we're all working on this, we're all moving together. So it's a good morale builder too. Okay? The next one is like your weekly staff meeting. And this is 45 to 90 minutes. He says don't set an agenda until after initial reporting. Now we have a pretty, we've been working on the really detailed agenda, and I'm actually thinking about trying this because I haven't looked at this for years until I sort of prepared for this teaching. And I thought, hey, maybe we should try that because the agenda can get a little bogged down. It can get a little tedious. So I thought, well, we might try this for a little while and see how we like it. And I think that that's okay. You can try things and see what works. And even what works for one team may not work for another. You know what I mean? Because people are different dynamics and different personalities. And I think that this next one, wherever you do staff meetings, this next one I really am a big believer in. And that is postpone strategic discussions. You have those strategic discussions of an issue will come up in your staff meeting, man, we're not reaching enough freshmen. We don't have enough freshmen in our group right now. What are we going to do about that? Or, man, the building needs $10,000 of roof work, and how are we going to come up with $10,000? Or, it's like a big question. And you try to lump it in with who's buying the hot dogs for the cookout, and it's just, if you don't do either one justice, and it's like, it turns into the long staff meeting that everybody hates. You know what I'm talking about? So don't have those discussions there. Next week, our staff meeting is all just SALT. So we have tabled all SALT discussion. Our agenda is pretty much, we're kind of event driven in our framework. We have this, and our agenda says, this event is this many days away, these are the things we gotta do for it. This event is this many days away, these are the things we gotta do for it. But we need to have some real, strategic discussions about SALT. But we've tabled it because we want to do it justice. So we haven't talked for the last 3 weeks about SALT, and then next week that's all we're going to talk about. We're taking two questions, and we're going to just brainstorm and be creative with those questions. Because usually your staff meetings are kind of who's doing what needs to be covered, what needs to get done, let's get everything assigned. And it's very hard to do that and be creative and brainstorm. So, Patrick Lencioni says separate those two out and give that time. And then that's the next one, which is number 3, which is a monthly strategic. He says about once a month you can do this whenever you feel a need. And say, discuss, analyze, brainstorm, decide on critical issues, affecting long-term success. Maybe it's like the problem solving, but it's a big problem, not we ran out of cups, okay? But a big problem that needs brainstorming some creative solutions. And you want to, give a couple hours of discussion just on that topic. And that's really beneficial, okay? Limit to 1 or 2 topics, prepare and do research, engage in good conflict. And then the last one is the quarterly offsite. He said 4 times a year, which I think you can afford to do if you have a corporate budget, but in our world it's a little bit more limited. So maybe more twice a year in our world. Go off-site and have the review strategy. What's going on? How are we doing? It's kind of as broad, really broad view. How are we fulfilling our vision? Or maybe there's a big topic that really needs to be addressed that we're going to work through in that off-site meeting. And you got to go off-site. Okay? You got to go off-site because everybody, if I'm in I can even work in my house most days. Because if I'm in my house, what I see? Work. I got to, I should dust that, I should clean that, I should put that laundry away, I should, it's when you're a mom, I think for men it's a little different. But when you're a woman and a mom, it's your world. Yes, it's a little different. Your work is all outside.
Yeah.
I gotta paint that fence. I gotta, you see all this work at your house, and it's very hard to focus. And it's the same even in your Chi Alpha home environment. You see all this work. Oh, we should be reaching the student. We should restructure this thing. And it's it's very hard to kind of disengage and think. And it doesn't even have to be that far outside. Now he says don't do anything fun. Just be strategic. Yes. I'm gonna have to disagree with us on that. You know, you gotta build relationships too, yes.
Just a quick comment. Just in interacting with some missionaries, sometimes I'll be in a meeting like that with them, with their staff team, and there will be texts coming in from students. They'll walk up to you, call from a student, whatever, and it's almost like they're enabling really bratty behavior on the part of the students. That the students say, "I can call them anytime I want. I own them," and the students need to be told no. You can't talk to us for the next 3 days. If you have a question, talk to these student leaders who are trained, who are supposed to be leading, because we need to go and get the heart of God, or we need to go and throw football, or whatever. Because otherwise, then people don't grow up. They just make you respond to their needs. I know that sounds a little harsh, but it's really critical. I mean, I see this all the time.
Well, I think it's critical also
texts and stuff.
for, if you're the director and you're doing that, it makes your staff feel like they're second fiddle. It's okay. Obviously, we love our students, but everybody needs to feel like this is my time. Okay? Like, I'm a wife, and I don't want to feel like, hey, we're on a romantic getaway, and Sarah's calling because she's got this issue, and let me tell you, if he picks up that phone, we're gonna have a problem. Now, you cut off a limb or something, it's okay. Otherwise, please wait till I'm going back in town. So everybody, it doesn't matter if it's my kid. I mean, if I'm with my kid, if I'm like, oh, hold on, every 30 seconds, then they feel like they're a second fiddle. If I'm with a student and I'm not giving them my full attention, it doesn't matter who you're with. Whoever you're with at the time, give them your full attention. Because everybody needs to have that feeling of, I'm important to you.
I'm kind of making a different point. The point I'm making is that you cannot fully engage in these meetings.
I understand.
Yeah,
I was making
a
follow-up.
Right, just to hammer it. You can't really fully engage in the meetings unless you're absolutely all in the meeting.
Yeah.
And not taking calls and not doing this thing. Or here's the best one. Hey, I've got to go meet with a student in an hour, so we need to hurry this meeting up. Well, how about you don't schedule the meeting with the student right at 5 minutes after the staff meeting, in case the staff meeting needs to go for an hour, because really that's going to be more important. If we hit an issue, it's a critical issue, because that affects the entire body.
That's that whole level 1 commitment, level 2 commitment stuff. Yep, Sarah.
Can you break this concept of meetings and communication? I know this may be hard to do in some ways because there's different structures, but the difference between leading your staff team and then leading your student leadership team. And I think sometimes for me personally, I struggle to know what things the staff should own in vision and what things I want my students to own in vision. And sometimes how to bring those two together or how to keep them separate depending on the need or how things come. We can just kind of talk about that.
Yeah, that's difficult. And I think you have to just kind of go through the process of figuring all that out for yourself.
Are there any guidelines?
Like, I think you have to just ask yourself the questions of, what's my vision for my staff? And I think sometimes, now our students worked hard. Probably all those who are our students would say amen to that. They worked hard and we gave them a lot of responsibility. But our staff worked hard and we gave them a lot of responsibility too. And there were boundaries between the two. I think you just have to find which ones you're comfortable with. Like with confidentiality, for example. Obviously, I'm a lot more comfortable sharing confidential issues with my staff than I am with students. So if, Janie is struggling with, some, pornography, let's say, well, I feel comfortable talking about that in a staff meeting. I probably wouldn't talk about that in a student leadership meeting unless it was up in a disciplinary stage.
Mm-hmm. Keep the circle of information, or people who know it as small as you can, unless it starts to affect outside that circle, then you have to widen it to the next level.
So I think you have to think it through situations, you know what I mean? And then, areas of ministry. All of your staff have areas of ministry. So they all probably have their own teams, within some of those areas of ministry. And then your students, they have areas of ministry and they have their own teams. So probably it makes sense to me to bring some of them all together at different, time periods. Now you're wanting to build as a pastor, as the lead pastor or like the lead missionary, you're sometimes wanting to build, real tight relationship with this team and tight relationship with this team. We would do quarterly, biannual offsites, usually with our staff and our student leadership team. And that was one of the places where it was like, okay, this is the leadership, the governing body of this body, because the staff and the student leaders, they had a lot of responsibility, both of them. They didn't always have the same responsibilities, and that's where kind of figuring out the spheres of responsibility of people. It can be a little messy in that structure, and I think all church pastors struggle with it because they have a board and they have a staff team. And I don't know if I can give you an answer to that. Maybe we can you can give me a phone call. We can come up with some coaching questions and kind of work through some of the questions that help you come up with the answer. Because I don't think the answer is going to be the same for every two people. It's what you getting clarity in your own head is asking yourself the right questions. And so, in areas of confidentiality, in areas of responsibility, what do I want them doing? What don't I want them doing? And it also changes by the season you're in the ministry, right? Like when you have a young ministry, you should not give your students a lot of responsibility because they're not trustworthy yet. They don't have your DNA, and the chances that they're going to try to take your group into a different direction is pretty high. So giving too much responsibility to students too early is probably one of the top 5 mistakes that you do when you start a group. Okay, everyone could raise their hand and say, yeah, I did that. But if you pioneer with staff, which is what our desire is, that we pioneer with staff, then you have, time we do it because, when we believe in student leaders, or, I just need the help. But if we pioneer with a team, that kind of helps take care of that issue. Mm-hmm. But then I think when you pioneer with a team, the struggle can be raising up good student leaders because you have a lot of help. And you don't have that natural inclination to look to your students to do stuff. So then you have to kind of push things a little bit this way. And for me, I think you have to have systems. You need to have a student leadership class. It needs to be clear, how do I become a leader in this ministry? It can't be like they take you in a back room and speak secret words over you and nobody really knows the process. Somebody asked, even with your students, should you do that clear? Yes. I would like to be a leader. How do I do that? Everybody in your ministry should know the answer to that. Well, there's a leadership class that meets on Saturday, and you can join that. And then after you go through that class, you can apply to be a leader, and you go through an interview process, or whatever your process is. That was our process. You can come up with your own process, but everybody needs to know what it is, and that needs to be kind of secret thing. Yeah, Jesse.
Just with that, what levels, in a healthy group, what levels of belonging do you see for students? You've got the one just coming in the door, you've got the one that are leaders. Is there another in-between stage? Did you guys ever define that? Membership?
I think, we have membership, which of course was explicit. I'm joining this body. So that was one of the tools that we use. But I think you always have to have people in the pipeline. We still live like that, right? Who's in the pipeline for the next thing? If you're a staff member you're the staff team, we're looking at you and saying, hey, I think this person will be doing this. And we're not going to like you so many. We're not going to go to your staff and go for the job and like that. But we're thinking, hey, this person has the potential to do this. Let's make sure that we're building relationship. Let's make sure that we're making investments there. And, we're working behind the scenes. So you have the person who's a leader, but there may be somebody who's seems to be the French person, but they could be a leader giving some investment. And you just start with relationship, not take a leadership class. Just relationship and what I just call the testing tasks. You know what I mean? Hey, can you pick up the bagel? This place is going to donate some bagels for us. Would you mind picking them up? Giving people an opportunity to serve in a very, very small way lets you know, could this person be somebody that I could trust with leadership? Seeing are other people following them? Do they have influence in other people's lives? Can you come with me and pray? I always had a student pray with me when somebody asked me for prayer in a meeting kind of context. If somebody said, will you pray for me? And if it wasn't some kind of hairy confidential thing, I'd always say, sure. Hey, Sarah, will you come with me? Let's pray for this person. So always have people in the pipeline. You know what I mean? So that, I'd ask, guy students too, okay, let's pray for this person together. So always bringing people along with you in the things that you do to kind of like put them in the pipeline to move them along the process of becoming this person. You know, nobody walks into your group and is like the best Zoom leader you ever had. They usually walk in kind of squirrely. You know, Jesse still was one of the greatest Zoom leaders we ever had. Would you agree with that? He was awesome. He was faithful. He was loyal. He was dependable. He was talented. He was awesome. When he came into our ministry, he was practicing. I thought he was slow, because I would talk to him and he'd be like, "How are you doing, Jesse?" "I'm fine." And I said, "You're smoking leaders." He said, "You look okay." He's like, "Yeah, I'm just shy." And then he became this great, Zoom leader. And I said, "Jesse, like, what was up with you when you came into the group? You were like, I thought there was something wrong with you." And it's okay that to be recorded because I told him about this. And he said, "Man, I had secrets in my life and I thought you knew about it. You were terrified." So,
point of order, with the membership class, two things. One is, that was before we had a church service. So we did that. And secondly, that's on the website that people can download the curriculum.
it's not on the website.
Oh, it's not? I'm sorry.
Let me just go to that last thing because we're pretty much out of time. This is not the right slide. This is not the right slide. Okay, that's all right. So if you go to our website, which is greatlakesxa.com.
It's on the paper.
Oh, it's on the paper. It's on the paper. If you go to greatlakesxa.com, it's right there on the paper, and it's /staff. I put a bunch of stuff on there. What did I put on there? I put the book summary for identifying meeting, this team assessment thing, a couple of like those free personality tests. I'm an otter. Actually, I don't know what I am in that scheme of things. I put in a job description that, one of our job descriptions. We have an employee manual, like an employee handbook we put together. We basically stole 90% of it off the internet. We just like to look at the employee handbook and then we add our own stuff to it. And it just says, this is who we are, this is our vision, this is how we function. We just tried to answer all those questions that we constantly put. We put it in writing. And, when we have new staff, we do an orientation. And I think you should do an orientation with all your new staff and just tell them, this is, how we do things here. This is how I work. This is what, we can show the campus. This is our history. I think history is important. This is how we got started. These are my values. This is who I am. I mean, just as much as you can communicate is just great. Yes.
I was just going to affirm that too. I came into a situation with my peers, and all of a sudden I was leading my peers, and I've been developing as a leader with my peers, and I'm still developing. And I began implementing the last 2 years of sharing, recommunicating my values, saying, "Hey, I'm growing in this. Just want to communicate what I'm thinking now. This is where we are," and it has helped reestablish that sense of orientation that I never gave them.
And that's the difference. We sometimes we come into that, we come into leadership, we become a director with people we were students with.
Yeah.
And that is a very challenging situation.
Hallelujah.
Okay. Really challenging. Why? Because there's not clear boundaries.
Sure.
There's not clear policy. There's not clear expectations. We're all equal. And it doesn't mean that you have to lord it over, but you do need to establish those boundaries. And, this is acceptable, this is not acceptable. And I think, people can always choose no. And you have to kind of be honest with who you are. We're always on the hunt for personnel. We just got Jeremy and his wife, he does all this like tech stuff, which I've been praying for 6 years, and it's so exciting. I'm so super, super excited about it. I make his videos every day. And not really, but it would be awesome if it was true. I would love to have a writer. And I had a gal contact me actually from Springfield, from the group there, from Andy's group. And she said, "I can do that for you, but I want to live here in Springfield." And people do that. I can't do that. This is my personality, out of sight, out of mind. When I am with you, you're the most important person in my life. When you're not there, I don't remember you exist. Okay? Some people just want to eat and I feel bad about it. Other people feel so much better about themselves. You're like, "Oh, yeah, I'm not good. I feel good now." Okay? Because that's just how my personality works. I cannot have people work off site. I need to see you every day, touch you, know who you are, be with you. That's who I am. Okay? So So for me to like create a work situation like that would just, I know that's not going to work out well. So I said, we cannot do that. If there's nothing wrong with it, we just cannot do it. And sometimes you're going to not have stuff you could have because it would just be potential problems and it's not worth it for the solutions.